Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation WFDF, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 8th, 2020, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. We have a jam-packed show for you. There's a lot going on. We saw the Super Tuesday results that took place that blew everybody away. And, you know, that was an example of not listening to the political pundits, because 99% of them had no clue what they were talking about. 99% of them got it wrong. All right, so we're going to deal with two main things tonight. We know the coronavirus is spreading, and we have at least 19 deaths. Actually, right before I got on the air tonight, is updated to 21 deaths. We see states of emergencies have been declared in the state of Maryland, California, Washington. The state of Washington has been hit exceptionally hard. So we're going to deal with all that on tonight's show. Coronavirus spreads as the U.S. reports at least 21 deaths. California, Washington, Maryland declare state of emergencies. And we are getting mixed messages from the White House. Mixed messages from the White House at a time when we need to have a coherent message coming from the White House. We're getting mixed messages from Donald Trump, from the doctors. Donald Trump is giving the impression that he knows almost as much as the doctors, or maybe more than the doctors in some cases. We see that the State Department today warned against traveling on cruises. The State Department has warned against traveling on cruises. So we see more and more cases coming out each day, and we see more deaths.
I can't do anything about that. I'm the show producer for this show. You'd have to call back and talk with somebody on a Monday morning
nationwide,
about a technical issue. Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Nationwide, we see the number of cases are starting to increase, but also what's taking place is we are seeing that worldwide, we're seeing the number of deaths increase worldwide also. Okay, we see over 100,000 cases reported across the world, and then we see that the number of deaths across the world have exceeded 3,100. Okay, so there's a lot going on, and we're going to get into that tonight. All right, so then some of you all have been watching my Facebook Live broadcast that I do throughout the week, and follow me on my Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, because I've been doing broadcasts almost every day this week, and I've been updating people on what's going on with the coronavirus and how it's spreading. But also I did a special broadcast on Wednesday, March 4th, dealing with Super Tuesday, okay, and doing a recap of what took place on Super Tuesday. So we saw that Joe Biden came back and shocked everybody. Nobody was predicting that Joe Biden would win 10 states out of 4. Many of the political pundits on MSNBC, CNN, even Fox News thought that Bernie Sanders was going to win the majority of the states. They talked about the youth vote, this and that, but something very interesting happened. People actually went out and voted, and they said, we're not listening to the political pundits. We're going to vote for who we want to vote for. And that totally shook up everybody. Everybody was caught off guard by that. We saw in South Carolina, before the South Carolina primary, we saw the presidential debate. Joe Biden did better in the presidential debate in South Carolina, better than he even did in Nevada. Then we saw Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina, who came out and endorsed Joe Biden. We saw people came out in force, especially African Americans in South Carolina, who voted for Joe Biden. That was last week Saturday. Then Super Tuesday came, and Joe Biden surprised everybody. So this is an example of why I've said before, and I've had to call out some of the political pundits on MSNBC. I've said this before. A lot of them are just trying to fill up airtime. A lot of them don't know what they're talking about. And what happened this past Tuesday proved it. What really matters is who shows up to vote. Period. All that other nonsense goes out the door. So we'll talk about the Super Tuesday had shocking results as Joe Biden won 10 states. All the political pundits were wrong. Then we saw Mike Bloomberg the next day drop out of the race. Mike Bloomberg got his clock cleaned. The only race that he won was the Samoa Islands, Samoa territory. He didn't win any states. Spent about $600 million. We saw Senator Elizabeth Warren, who exited the race a few days later. She hasn't endorsed anybody. She was on Saturday Night Live last night. Very good opening skit, lampooning Fox News, Laura Ingraham on Fox News. Then you had Kate McKinnon, who portrays Elizabeth Warren on Saturday Night Live. She and the real Elizabeth Warren were in a skit together. Senator Kamala Harris came out today and endorsed Joe Biden. Reverend Jesse Jackson came out today and endorsed Bernie Sanders. We know that you have a mini Super Tuesday coming up this Tuesday, March 10th. Michigan votes, Idaho votes, North Dakota votes, Missouri, Mississippi, and Hawaii. You have 6 states. The most delegate-rich state is Michigan. Bernie Sanders is holding rallies at U of M, Michigan, holding rallies in Grand Rapids. He held a number of rallies this weekend. He skipped over Mississippi. He was supposed to go to Mississippi, canceled going to Mississippi to speak at a rally. We know Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, Chokwe Lumumba of Mississippi, the son, came to Detroit for a rally for Bernie Sanders. We know Joe Biden will be here in Detroit Monday as well for a big rally as well. So things are heating up. So one of the things that we saw, and I encourage everybody to go and watch the broadcast that I did March 4th, okay, because I had 2.5 hours. I have unlimited time during the week, and I could get really deep into this information. Go watch that on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Shout out to the people watching us on our fan page, the African History Network, on Facebook, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. So one of the things that I talked about this past week, and also I was speaking at Detroit Unity Temple Church Friday evening here in Detroit, is that we saw voter suppression rear its ugly head in the primary that took place, especially in Texas. Okay, we saw the stories of long lines at Texas polling locations. And we saw one brother, Hervis Rogers, I think was his name. He was in line for almost 7 hours. And you had a confluence of issues that caused that to take place. You had everything from the Shelby County versus Holder U.S. Supreme Court case that took place in 2013 that gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. You had that contributed to it. And if you saw the articles that I post throughout the week on our fan page, the African History Network, if you saw the broadcast I did March 4th, Texas has shut down more polling places. The state of Texas has shut down more polling places from 2012 to 2018 than any other state. Okay, the state of Texas. They've shut down about 750 polling places from 2012 to 2018. And that contributed to the logjam that we saw there Thursday in various Texas counties. And we know that you're going to have more people who vote in the midterm, in the general election, than who vote in the midterm election, or in the primary, I should say. Okay, so we'll talk about that as well, the rampant voter suppression that took place, and this ties into history. This ties into understanding the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and how the U.S. Supreme Court case of Shelby County versus Holder gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which removed the pre-clearance. And then right after that, all these new states started coming out with new voter ID laws targeting African Americans, especially targeting Hispanics, but also targeting college students. So we saw that this past Thursday. And interestingly enough, March 7th was the 55th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama, which was March 7th, 1965, and that was dealing with the fight for the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that was gutted because of the U.S. Supreme Court case of Shelby County versus Holder. And because that U.S. Supreme Court case was gutted, that had a big impact on the 2016 presidential election, because in the 2016 presidential election, there were 868 fewer polling places. There were 868 fewer polling places in the 2016 presidential election. Today, there are 1,700 fewer polling places, fewer places to vote. All this ties into history. All this ties into law. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So when people think the 1965 Voting Rights Act doesn't matter, why did Republicans work so hard to weaken it? Why are Republicans systematically closing polling places? And when you look at articles like the one from blackamericaweb.com, well, not Black America Web, which one was that? MSN.com had an article about this, Vox.com, etc. Washington Post had a really good article, Long Voting Lines in Texas Spotlight Concerns About Access to the Polls. We saw The Guardian and other publications had articles dealing with the voter suppression that was taking place because of Shelby County versus Holder was gutted. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, if the African American vote doesn't matter, why do Republicans work so hard to suppress the African American vote? If the African American vote doesn't matter, why do Republicans work so hard to suppress the African American vote? We saw it in 2016. We're seeing it right now, real time. The other thing that we're seeing real time is how the spread of the coronavirus and the mishandling from the Trump administration is causing people to really think about who they vote for the next president. Because they realize that you need somebody competent. You realize they need somebody who's going to tell people the truth. They realize you need somebody who is not going to contradict the scientists and think they know more than the scientists. Okay? They realize they need somebody who's going to be ahead of the curve. So that played a part in who people voted for on Tuesday as well. It's going to play a part moving forward. We see that the 1918 flu pandemic that was covered, that was misreported, that was really covered up, the extent of it by the U.S. government, President Woodrow Wilson. We saw it kill 50 million people worldwide and kill 675,000 people right here in the U.S., and Woodrow Wilson got it. But Donald Trump just this past week said he didn't know, that so many people died from the flu, but his grandfather died of the Spanish flu, that Spanish flu pandemic in 1918. His grandfather died from that. It's interesting how history repeats itself for those that don't know it. We'll deal with this and other topics, 9, 10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio, the African History Network Show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network Show right here on 9, 10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 8th, 2020. We're live tonight, jam-packed show, a lot going on. Be sure to watch my broadcast throughout the week. If you miss them, they'll archive, go back, because I get deep into this information. I have unlimited time there. Watch us at our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, on YouTube. Now, in the second hour, what I'm going to do in our second hour, we'll deal with Super Tuesday and some of the results of Super Tuesday. We'll talk about the voter suppression that took place in Texas. And what I'm going to do is look at the policies of Bernie Sanders, look at the policies of Joe Biden, and see how they will impact African Americans. This is extremely important. I hear a whole lot of people talking. Very, very few people are going to do what I'm going to do in the second hour. I hear a whole lot of people talking on social media, people talking about baby boomers voting for Biden and all type of stuff like that. Well, the fact of the matter was, the young voters that Bernie Sanders was predicting were going to show up, they didn't show up in the numbers that he predicted or needed. So why are you going to blame baby boomers and older African Americans for going to the polls and voting for who they wanted to? You should talk to the younger people who Bernie Sanders said was going to show up, who didn't show up. You should go talk to them, because they didn't show up and vote for Bernie Sanders. If you like Bernie Sanders, go vote for Bernie Sanders. I don't have a problem with that. If you like Joe Biden, go vote for Joe Biden. I don't have a problem with that. But you shouldn't attack the people who went and voted for who they wanted, as opposed to talking to the people who Bernie Sanders was counting on and they didn't go vote. The revolution was not televised because the revolution didn't happen. So all this back and forth, calling people names on social media, all that stuff needs to stop. This is ridiculous. Say that for Trump. So how do VP Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders policies match up for African Americans? We'll deal with that. Root.com has a very good analysis of that. All the bickering back and forth on social media, a lot of that stuff I ain't even get in, because I say what I need to say on the air and back it up. Proper documentation ends all conversation. All the back and forth on social media, 99.9% of the time, people ain't cite the information I'm going to cite in the second hour. So you want to stay tuned for that. We're going to deal with this scientifically, strategically, fact-based, not emotions. We need to deal with facts and evidence, not feelings and emotions. March 7th was the 55th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama, 1965, during the fight for the Voting Rights Act. That ties right into Shelby County versus Holder. Why? Where was Shelby County? Shelby County is in Alabama. Shelby County is in Alabama. Alabama, we know. Selma is the ground zero for the fight for the Voting Rights Act in 1965. So on the African History Network show, we focus on educating and empowering and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the show. We deal with current events, history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, love, sex, health issues, relationships, and much, much more. I'm about to bring Kenya K. Stevens here on the show so we can talk about sex and relationships. I gotta let her know, Key, this ain't Blog Talk Radio, Kenya. Okay, but we'll bring Kenya on soon. You've seen me interview Kenya before. We talk about tantra, sex, and things like that. I gotta let her know, okay, this ain't Blog Talk Radio. Okay, I've been here 4 years, Kenya. Kenya's been on Dr. Phil with her husband Carl Stevens, and you've seen Kenya K. Stevens. Go Google her name. You've seen me interview her. But I just gotta let her know, okay, Kenya, this ain't Blog Talk Radio now, all right? We have an FCC license here. Okay. All right. So let's jump into this. Now, Rick Israel said Biden helped write the crime bill during the Clinton administration, which was detrimental to black folks. Now, I encourage people. See, I hear it's interesting. People talk about the crime bill in 1994. I can tell the age of people when they start saying stuff like that. Because you don't talk about the fact that the U.S. prison population quadrupled from 1970 to 1993. You don't deal with Ronald Reagan's war on drugs in 1982. And it started with Richard Nixon's war on drugs June 17, 1971, when he declared his war on drugs in front of Congress. The U.S. prison population starts increasing in the early 1970s, continues into the 80s, and goes into the early 90s. You skip over all that, and you start the clock in 94. That's false. That's not what happened. You have to understand history. Go watch the broadcast I did early in the week. And at the same time, I'm going through right now, I'm in the process of reading the entire 356-page bill known as the 1994 crime bill, because I hear a whole lot of people talking about it. Very few people have actually read it. I'm reading it now. Okay, we're going to post a link so you can read a summary of what was in the 94 crime bill. I'm not saying it was good or bad. I'm saying I want to read this so I know exactly what it is I'm talking about. Because I hear what people are saying. A lot of that is not based upon facts. I deal with facts and evidence. I don't deal with opinions and beliefs and feelings. Okay, so let's jump into this. The coronavirus is continuing to spread. We see that shortly, right before coming on the air, the coronavirus epidemic continued to prompt new travel restrictions and emergency declarations around the world, with the U.S. State Department on Sunday warning citizens against cruise travel and Italy resorting to a massive lockdown affecting millions of people. Now, Washington Post has some of the best coverage on this. You see my broadcast throughout the week. We deal with the live updates from the Washington Post. NBCnews.com has live updates, as well as New York Times. So I look at the live updates from all of them because I subscribe to them. I pay Washington Post and New York Times money each month to gain access to their websites and archives and all of that good stuff. Now, the epidemic ravaging northern Italy can be traced to an outbreak at a car parts manufacturer in Germany. So we see that Italy has 1/4 of their population quarantined. Italy has millions of people quarantined. Okay, this thing is spreading around the world. It is spreading quickly. And there was an article from the Washington Post in the last couple of days that dealt with, well, the one from last week that dealt with how Trump has not learned a lesson from the 1918 flu pandemic. Okay, so that is a good one that people should read, and that ties into history. And what we're dealing with right now is history in the headlines. And those that don't know history are destined to repeat it. 1918 flu pandemic, also known as the Spanish flu, that killed 50 million people, originated in China, historians say. So that's from National Geographic. That's from 2014. And then there was another article from the Washington Post that dealt with the flu pandemic from 1918. Okay, so in the United States, the death toll rose to 21 on Sunday, March 8th, 2020, to include 2 more residents of an infection-stricken nursing home. U.S. cases have surpassed 400 and affected more than 30 states, as well as the District of Columbia, where a church rector had the city's first confirmed infection. Maryland announced 2 more cases on Sunday, while the state of Virginia reported 1 more. So we're seeing this pop up in more states. What's going to happen, if you saw Dr. Anthony Fauci on Meet the Press this morning with Chuck Todd on NBC, rebroadcasted on MSNBC, we see that about 1 million tests are going to reach health facilities on Monday. Then there are going to be more tests sent out later this week. So as these tests go out, because earlier last week, Vice President Mike Pence said that there would be 1 million tests that were going to be sent out by the end of this past week. As of Thursday, this past Thursday, was 75,000 tests. Okay, so they missed the mark. As more tests are sent out to health facilities, you're going to see the number of people who are diagnosed skyrocket. Right now, we're dealing with over 400. Last I heard, maybe about 436, something like that, diagnosed cases. But there have been a shortage of tests to actually diagnose the coronavirus. As you have hundreds of thousands or 1 million plus tests available to health facilities, they're going to be able to test people, and you're going to see the number skyrocket. So U.S. cases have surpassed 400 and affected more than 30 states, as well as the District of Columbia, where a church rector had the city's first confirmed infection. Maryland announced 2 more cases on Sunday, while Virginia reported 1 more. So we saw Governor Larry Hogan, governor of Maryland. He was on Meet the Press this morning with Chuck Todd also. Now, with positive cases reported among attendees of major gatherings, including a conservative conference attended by President Donald Trump. That was the CPAC conference. Some political organizations have reassessed their plans for large-scale events. But Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont, and just incidentally, this ain't picking on Bernie. I like Bernie, knew about Bernie long before most people did. Bernie Sanders is in the documentaries, Koch brothers exposed, Alec exposed. Go watch those on YouTube. But right here in the live updates from Washington Post, it says Bernie Sanders, independent Vermont. Okay, so I'm just I've said this before. I'm not picking on Bernie. You did it yourself, dude. But Bernie Sanders ain't he's not a Democrat. So I'm just, that's why I still says Bernie Sanders, independent Vermont. Don't take my word for it. Go to Senate.gov. What's Senate.gov? Official website of the U.S. Senate. Who has a page on Senate.gov? All 100 U.S. senators. What does it say? What on their page on Senate.gov? What does it show? Their party affiliation? What does it say for Bernie Sanders? Independent Vermont. I mean, so, okay, it is what it is. I've said this before. If Bernie Sanders get the nomination, I'm voting for whoever gets the nomination. Period. If Bernie Sanders gets the nomination, more power to him. He earned it. I'll vote for Bernie Sanders. If Joe Biden gets the nomination, more power to him. He earned it. I'll vote for Joe Biden. Whoever gets the nomination, I'm voting for them. Okay, but, it is what it is. So Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders said Sunday that he is moving forward with plans to hold campaign rallies ahead of Tuesday's primaries in 6 states. In China, where the outbreak has begun to subside, a hotel in the southeast that served as a quarantine facility for 71 people collapsed Saturday. Many of you saw the reporting on this on Saturday on social media. A quarantine facility for 71 people collapsed late Saturday, killing at least 10 people and trapping scores in the rubble. Okay, and let's do this right here. I'm going to refresh the screen here for the latest updates. Okay, there we go. Bam, got more updates in. All right, so the coronavirus epidemic continued to prompt new travel restrictions and emergency declarations around the world, with the U.S. State Department on Sunday warning citizens against cruise travel, and Italy resorting to a massive lockdown affecting millions of people. The epidemic ravaging northern Italy can be traced to an outbreak at a car parts manufacturer in Germany, according to a study by Italian virologists. Findings that are likely to shatter assumptions that German authorities had successfully contained the first major cluster in Europe. So what we're seeing is that this is affecting business. Now, this past Friday, the first Friday of every month, the job numbers come out from Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Labor Department. 273,000 jobs were created, but that is for the month of February, but that doesn't show the impact that the coronavirus is having on business. We've seen numerous conferences that have been canceled this past week. We see a decline in flights from airlines. We see restriction in travel. The Trump administration has put bans on traveling to Iran and China and things like this. This is going to have a ripple effect throughout the economy. When you cancel conferences, that's less people staying at hotels, that's less people spending money at restaurants and doing shopping at retail in those cities around the hotels, etc. When you have airlines canceling flights, that is going to be a reduction in revenue for the airlines. That's going to be, but also if you have less people coming through to the airports, then you ain't going to need all these people working. You're going to have to reduce people's hours. Okay? So this is going to have a ripple effect throughout the economy. So with positive cases reported among attendees of major gatherings, including a conservative conference attended by Donald Trump, some political organizations have reassessed their plans for large-scale events. We look at the NBA contemplating having games with no audience. We see the NCAA just played a game with no audience. Well, that reduces how much money is spent on concessions. That reduces how much money people spend at businesses around the stadium. So U.S. citizens, particularly those with health issues, should not travel by cruise ship, the State Department announced on Sunday. 9 patients have tested positive in the Washington, D.C. area. 17 of the... Just a second, let me back up. Okay. All right, hold on just a second. Okay, 17 of the coronavirus deaths in the city are in Washington State's King County. King County is probably the county that's hit the hardest, where a nursing home outbreak has killed the elderly, strained staff, and left families deeply worried. So one of my broadcasts earlier this week, we talked about how you have unions representing flight attendants, unions representing healthcare professionals. These are some, especially healthcare professionals, they are a vulnerable population because they're dealing with sick people. They're vulnerable, they're more likely to catch it. So you have unions focusing on having governmental agencies, things like this, providing more assistance, putting more regulations in place to protect people who work for the airlines. Then also we see the same thing for people who work in correctional facilities. Because what people are afraid of is if it is spreading quickly throughout nursing homes, and you have healthcare professionals, etc., working in nursing homes, then you can have the same thing that takes place in correctional facilities where people are housed close together, etc. We saw the same thing. We saw it spreading quickly during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic also in various areas. And this was during World War I. Okay, so this is extremely important. Day by day, this is getting worse. It's not getting better. Egypt announces first coronavirus fatality, a 60-year-old German tourist. After being stuck in limbo for days off the coast of San Francisco, the virus-stricken Grand Princess cruise ship is headed to Oakland, California on Monday to dock, the cruise line said earlier Sunday. So you have the State Department coming out and saying, advising people not to go on cruises. U.S. citizens, particularly those with health issues, should not travel by cruise ship. Okay? That's going to impact the travel industry. This is going to have wide-ranging impact. So the March job numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics are going to be much different than the ones from February. Now, we see the virus spread. The virus's spread in China continues to slow. China on Sunday, March 8th, announced 40 new cases of coronavirus and 22 additional deaths, a sign that the epidemic was continuing to slow in the country where it began. Daily new infections in China had dropped into double digits Friday for the first time since figures began coming in January. As usual, the toll in China was concentrated in Hubei, Hubei province, the outbreak's epicenter. 21 of the reported deaths were in Hubei, and 36 of the new cases were in the capital city, Wuhan. But even in Wuhan, China, Chinese officials have been signaling optimism. The Communist Party boss there said Friday he would begin a citywide thankfulness education campaign to encourage people to show their appreciation for leaders helping the country combat the coronavirus. China's infections total 80,735 as of right now, while deaths total more than 31,000, the government says. Now, we know that this past week, the number of cases worldwide has surpassed 100,000. The number of cases worldwide has surpassed 100,000. We see that Sunday, March 8th, was reported that a D.C. woman unable to be tested highlights confusion. A story of a D.C. woman who had traveled through the Seoul, Korea airport and was unable to access a coronavirus test made rounds on social media over the weekend, highlighting the confusion many Americans feel about the spread of the virus and who should be tested. Okay, so you can look at these updates from the Washington Post, also NBCnews.com. We see that D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser sought to quell concern about the case. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser said, quote, "I will be very sure that our health department has checked and double-checked to make sure that we're making the tests available to everyone who meets the guidelines." She said at the news conference, she added that the district would consider contacting people who previously did not warrant testing if the guidelines change. As more tests are being made available, you're going to see the numbers of people who are diagnosed with this skyrocket. Iowa, the state of Iowa announces their first 3 cases. All passengers aboard cruise ship in Egypt. Iowa officials, the state of Iowa, their officials on Sunday evening announced the state's first 3 cases of COVID-19. The patients live in Johnson County and were passengers aboard a cruise ship in Egypt, Governor Kim Reynolds told reporters at a news conference. One is between the ages of 41 and 60, while the others are between 61 and 80, officials said. 2 had underlying health conditions. Now, I know some people just came back from a cruise to Egypt, so I need to call them. I ain't going to call no names, but I know some people just got back in the last couple of weeks from a cruise to Egypt. So I need to make some calls, make sure everybody's all right. The governor's office, if you're listening, you know who you are. Inbox me, let me know you're okay. The governor's office said in a news release that none of the 3 required hospitalization and that all are recovering at home. Okay. Now, Senator Ted Cruz, you know Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Ted Cruz is the same guy that former Speaker of the House John Boehner referred to as Lucifer in the flesh. Remember Senator Ted Cruz from Texas? Yeah, that's Senator Ted Cruz, okay? The one who Donald Trump insulted Ted Cruz's wife during the 2016 election. Now, Senator Ted Cruz is a Trump sycophant. That's Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Ted Cruz reported today, says he shook hands with the CPAC patient, and he says he was self-quarantined, okay? Now, Donald Trump was also at the CPAC conference as well. Senator Ted Cruz said Sunday that he had a brief conversation and handshake with an attendee at the Conservative Political Action Conference last month, the month of February, who had since tested positive for COVID-19, the disease caused by the coronavirus. Senator Ted Cruz said that he learned Saturday night about the contact which occurred 10 days ago and that he is not experiencing any symptoms. He said, I feel fine and healthy. Okay, now we could make the argument he don't look healthy, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? Now, according to the statement, Senator Ted Cruz was not required to self-quarantine, but will stay at his Texas home, quote, until a full 14 days have passed since the CPAC interaction, end quote. Now, hopefully, Trump was there also. Maybe Trump will self-quarantine himself and stay off Twitter also. Maybe Trump will self-quarantine himself and stay off Twitter. Quote, everyone should continue to treat this outbreak seriously and be driven by facts and medical science, Senator Ted Cruz said. Well, why don't you talk to your boy Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida? Because this past week, when the House of Representatives passed the $8.3 billion bill to fund the fight against the coronavirus, this dumbass Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, another Trump sycophant, is there on the House floor wearing a gas mask while they're dealing with this serious issue. Then, just a few days after that, a death attributed to the coronavirus was reported in Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican from Florida, in his district. You here on the House floor wearing a gas mask, making a joke out of a catastrophe that the Trump administration has mishandled. That's going to come back to haunt Representative Matt Gaetz, as well as a lot of other nonsensical stunts he's pulled. That one right there. So then he released a statement. You know, I have the article here. We'll give it to you from Washington Post. Okay? So this is going to cause a lot of them to really take this stuff seriously. Washington Post reported Matt Gaetz made light of coronavirus by wearing a gas mask. Now one of his constituents has died. March 7th, 2020, posted 2:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, days after Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican from Florida. Now, he's up for re-election November 3rd, 2020. Y'all need to vote his behind out of office. This man is disrespectful. He's a disgrace to Florida. Okay, Florida deserves better than Matt Gaetz. Days after Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida wore an enormous gas mask during a House floor vote on an emergency funding package for the coronavirus response, the congressman announced that a resident in his northwestern Florida district had died of COVID-19. Representative Matt Gaetz said in a statement late Friday that he was, quote, extremely saddened to learn of the first fatality in our district, end quote, a resident who lived in Santa Rosa County. His message followed the Florida Department of Health's announcement late Friday that 2 residents had died of the disease, pushing the U.S. death total at that time to 19, but now it's 21 as of coming on the show tonight. In addition to the patient in Santa Rosa, who had recently traveled internationally, the second coronavirus-related death was a Lee County resident in their 70s who had recently traveled abroad. If there's one group of people who vote, it's older people who vote. If there's one group of people who vote in this country, it's older people who vote. Older African Americans and older white people. They vote. You need to vote his little snot-nosed ass out of office. In addition, so Florida health officials additionally reported 2 new presumptive positive coronavirus cases, both in Broward County. One is a 75-year-old male and the other a 65-year-old male, according to the health department. Both are in isolation. Now, Representative Matt Gaetz, a Republican of Florida, who's part of the Freedom Caucus and a sycophant for Donald Trump, Matt Gaetz said in his statement that the deceased patient from his district had been quarantined shortly after showing symptoms, and that no further cases were known in the district at the time. Representative Bobby L. Rush, Democrat of Illinois, one of the most senior House members, rebuked the 37-year-old congressman for his Wednesday display of the over-the-top gas mask. Representative Bobby Rush, Democrat of Illinois, said via Twitter that Matt Gaetz was, quote, making light of an epidemic that has killed 14 Americans, end quote, at the time, 21 now that we know of. He contrasted how the congressman's behavior went unchecked to his own removal. Now remember this, 2012, after Trayvon Martin was killed, Representative Bobby Rush was on the House floor wearing a hoodie in support of Trayvon Martin. He was removed, Representative Bobby Rush was removed from the House floor for wearing a hoodie. But Representative Matt Gaetz was removed from the House floor for wearing a gas mask. So Representative Bobby Rush on Twitter contrasted how the congressman's behavior went unchecked to his own removal from the House floor in 2012 when he wore a hoodie to protest racial profile in the wake of the fatal shooting of Trayvon Martin in Florida. Representative Matt Gaetz' office did not provide additional comments Saturday when asked to respond to Bobby Rush's criticism, but cited his Friday statement offering condolences for the deceased patient. What I want to know is, why did your behind sit up there wearing a gas mask, making light of this tragedy that is affecting people's lives? Now, even if now most people who get it not going to die, but guess what? You can't go to work. I know Donald Trump is saying it's okay to go to work if you got the coronavirus. Don't listen to him. He'll probably tell you take some Robitussin and the burners. You'll be all right. No. You can infect people. What happens when you have to stay home, self-quarantine for 14 days, and you don't have sick leave at work? What happens when you don't get paid for going to work? This has wide-ranging impact. This has wide-ranging ramifications. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as the U.S. Surgeon General, urged the public not to wear masks if they are not sick, as doing so creates unnecessary panic and reduces the supply for those like healthcare workers who need them. Where did they get some of these Republicans from? So what happens is when you read the information, go to cdc.gov, Center for Disease Control. One, if you don't have the coronavirus, wearing a mask is not going to prevent you from getting it. If you have the coronavirus, wearing a mask can help reduce you spreading it to other people. Two, when you have all these people who don't need the mask buying up the mask, it reduces the supply for the people who need it, like healthcare professionals, healthcare workers. They're on the front lines. They're some of the most vulnerable ones. Read this article here, Washington Post. We're going to post this on our fan page and on the threads of our broadcast. Matt Gaetz made light of coronavirus by wearing a gas mask. Now one of his constituents died. Okay? Is Donald Trump still talking about a Democratic hoax and all this type of nonsense? Is he still talking about that? Notice you didn't hear that this past week. And Donald Trump, it was revealed either today or yesterday, Donald Trump was at that CPAC meeting also. Okay? Where the person with the coronavirus was diagnosed. So I wonder if Donald Trump is going to do the right thing and self-quarantine. Let's hope so. Let's hope he stays off of Twitter as well. Okay, I know we're coming up here on a break in a couple minutes here. So, when we come back, we're going to continue a little bit with updates on the coronavirus. And then we'll get into 2020. We'll get into the Super Tuesday. Watch my broadcast throughout the week because I go deep into this information because I have a lot more time. All right, now, let's see here. So Maryland, the state of Maryland confirms 2 more coronavirus cases, bringing state's total to 5. Canada to evacuate citizens on board the Grand Princess cruise ship. Now, Canada will evacuate its citizens from the Grand Princess cruise liner. The country's foreign minister said Sunday after the United States asked its northern neighbor for assistance repatriating Canadians. Now, NBCnews.com had a really good article dealing with mixed messaging. Mixed White House messaging on coronavirus sparks internal frustration. Okay, this is from March 8th, 2020. White House officials acknowledge Donald Trump is simply not on the same wavelength as his team, but say there isn't much they can do to change his public tone. That's a polite way of saying this. White House officials are growing increasingly frustrated at what they see as Donald Trump's consistent bids to downplay the severity of the coronavirus outbreak, a tendency that has led to a clash in messaging with public health officials. Those mixed messages were on display Sunday as the top infectious disease doctor at the National Institute of Health, Dr. Anthony Fauci, warned the elderly and medically vulnerable to avoid large crowds and long trips or cruises. And Surgeon General Jerome Adams, who is a brother, by the way, Surgeon General Jerome Adams told the public to be prepared for more cases and deaths. But the message Sunday morning from Donald Trump on Twitter was praised for his administration's response, which he called a, quote, perfectly coordinated and fine-tuned plan, end quote. Really? What planet did you live on? And blame for the media, which he said was, quote, doing everything possible to make us look bad, end quote. No, they're just reporting what you're doing and not doing. Now, Donald Trump also told reporters Saturday night that he would not be postponing his political rallies, which can attract upward of 15,000 attendees, and was not concerned about the virus getting closer to the White House. Multiple sources familiar with the discussions acknowledge that Donald Trump is simply not on the same wavelength as the rest of his team. But they said there is not much they can do to change his public tone. Now, people who went to the polls Super Tuesday, people who are going to go to the polls this Tuesday and subsequently, they're seeing this catastrophe taking place real time. They're seeing the mishandling of the coronavirus by the Trump government. They're seeing how the Trump administration has waged war on scientists for the last 2 years, shutting down or cutting funding to the CDC, shutting down the Predict project, which was used in the George W. Bush administration and the President Barack Obama administration to monitor infectious diseases and reduce the spread of them, things like this. They're seeing what happens when you have somebody who's president who has absolutely no clue what they're doing and is more focused on keeping the stock market propped up than on actually being honest and telling people the truth and putting the doctors out in front and giving the people the real cold hard facts so people can protect themselves. They're seeing what happens when you have somebody who's incompetent, and they're realizing, hold on, elections have consequences. They're realizing even though the policies that are being implemented dealing with the coronavirus, the policies don't say black, the policies don't say African American, the policies don't say white or Hispanic, but the decisions coming from Washington, coming from the White House, will impact the lives of millions of people across this country. We saw this past week, Washington Post reported, Donald Trump said at the CDC on, that was at the CDC in Atlanta on Friday. Then let me know when we're coming up on a break. Maybe I have a natural ability. Trump plays medical expert on coronavirus by second guessing the professionals. They're seeing stuff like this. Donald Trump likes to say, I know we're coming up on a break in a couple of minutes here, so you can give us a call, 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Because I know we're coming up on a break here in a couple of minutes. Let me know how much time we have before the break. Okay, so Donald Trump likes to say that he fell into politics almost by accident, and on Friday, as he sought to calm a nation gripped with fears over coronavirus, he suggested he would have thrived in another profession, that of medical expert. Donald Trump at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta on Friday, March 6th, said, "I like this stuff. I really get it." Trump boasted to reporters during a tour at the CDC. Citing a great super genius uncle, end quote, who taught at MIT, Donald Trump professed that it must run in the family genes. Quote, "People are really surprised I understand this stuff, he said. Every one of these doctors said, how do you know so much about this? Maybe I have a natural ability. How's all this stuff always about him? You got people dying. How's it always about him? We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. Michael Imhotep, the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 8th, 2020. And we are live. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and also on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. So follow us, subscribe to both our fan page on Facebook and my YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications on both of them so you know when we go live. Turn on the notifications, okay? Because, you know, a lot of people don't have the notifications on, so you don't know when we go live. You can interact with me when I go live as well. Okay, so the calling number is area code 313-778-7600. Now, we're also broadcasting on 9:10 a.m. Superstation's Facebook fan page as well. Okay, 9:10 a.m. Superstation on Facebook. So follow the radio station on Facebook. And you can watch us there as well.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so right before the break, I was sharing with you, we were talking about the spread of the coronavirus. And I was sharing with you, we talked briefly about the article from the Washington Post. Maybe I have a natural ability. Trump plays medical expert on coronavirus. Trump plays medical expert on coronavirus by second-guessing the professionals. Okay, that's dangerous. You can go to cdc.gov. cdc.gov is the Center for Disease Control. They have a lot of good information there on preventing the spread of the coronavirus, etc. Earlier this week in my broadcast, I can't remember which day, all my days are running together. And I've done so many broadcasts this past week. But I shared an article also from the Washington Post that talked about dispelling myths about boosting your immune system, things like this, but it gave some good practical ways to stay healthy during this period of time and to reduce your chances of getting the coronavirus. Okay, so we're gonna I'll find that article. We're gonna post that on our fan page, the African History Network. I'll give you the name for that as well. If you like this type of information, also you can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN show through Cash App, $, the AHN show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. BusinessInsider.com had an article. We're going to go to the phone lines here in just a minute, so hold the line, Vern. Also, the calling number 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. Trump spent the past 2 years slashing the government agencies responsible for handling the coronavirus outbreak. Trump spent the past 2 years slashing the government agencies responsible for handling the coronavirus outbreak. People have no idea the type of damage this moron has done to this country. I said on Facebook when I posted this article a couple weeks ago. Donald Trump insisted on Tuesday that the coronavirus known as COVID-19 virus is under control because China is working very hard to contain its spread. This was a couple weeks ago. But read that article from BusinessInsider.com. Now, I talked about the Predict project that was shut down in October 2019 by the Trump administration. Vox.com, VOX.com has an article dealing with that. A crucial federal program tracking dangerous diseases is shut down. A crucial federal program tracking dangerous diseases is shut down. So read that article as well. Let's see here. I want to go to, let's go to this clip here. This is from, then we'll go to the phone lines. This is from the 11th hour on Friday, March 6th, MSNBC. Trump praises coronavirus response as cases rack up and markets spiral. Let's go to this clip. Yeah, just turn it up in here so they can hear on Facebook.
To at least 90. Right, and there are now reports of 100,000 cases worldwide. Today, one of the scientists tracking the global spread of the virus noted this key development during a briefing for congressional staff.
We've recently passed the point at which case we now have more cases outside China than inside China on a daily basis, which I think is a pretty critical shift in this situation.
In the United States, there are now more than 300 cases in almost half the states and at least 15 deaths, with the latest death being reported tonight out of Florida. There are still not enough coronavirus tests to meet the national demand, adding to the fear that the real extent of the outbreak may not be fully understood in the United States. The Trump administration has been taking a lot of heat for how it has responded to the spread of the virus, and there have been concerns about the president's messaging when he has spoken in public. Today, the president visited the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta after he signed an $8.3 billion emergency funding bill that had just passed Congress. His comments today seem to imply that there was no shortage of test kits.
Anybody right now and yesterday, anybody that needs a test gets a test. They're there. They have the tests. The tests are beautiful. Anybody that needs a test gets a test. But anybody that needs a test can have a test. They're all set. They have them out there. But as of right now and yesterday, anybody that needs a test, that's the important thing.
But less than an hour after that, Vice President Pence, who is leading the White House coronavirus task force, held his own briefing and acknowledged that the government was still working on making its test kits available to everyone.
Two of America's leading commercial laboratories have announced that tests will be available by Monday of this week. With the announcement of these major commercial labs, we trust in a matter of weeks the coronavirus tests will be broadly available to the public and available to any American that is symptomatic and has a concern about the possibility of having contracted the coronavirus.
During Trump's visit to the CDC, he also spoke about the Grand Princess cruise ship being held off the coast of San Francisco with more than 3,500 people currently on board. Coronavirus tests were delivered to the ship by helicopter. And this afternoon, Vice President Pence announced that 21 people, 19 crew members and 2 passengers, have tested positive for the virus. The testing came about after a man who was on a previous voyage tested positive and died from coronavirus. Today, Trump said he didn't want the administration to take people off the cruise ship because it would double the number of those with coronavirus in the States.
I would rather, because I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship. That wasn't our fault.
The president then went on to praise his administration's efforts.
I think we're doing a really good job in this country at keeping it down. We've really been very vigilant, and we've done a tremendous job at keeping it down. I like this stuff. I really get it. People are surprised that I understand it. Every one of these doctors said, how do you know so much about this? Maybe I have a natural ability. Maybe I should have done that instead of running for president.
Even so, the coronavirus continues to take its toll on the financial markets with another sell-off today, even amid reports that the economy added more than 270,000 jobs last month. Meanwhile, city officials in Austin, Texas, have now canceled the South by Southwest Festival, which was set to start a week from today. As all this unfolds, President Trump has just announced another major personnel shift at the White House. He has tapped Mark Meadows, North Carolina Republican House member, leader of the Freedom Caucus and a tireless Trump ally, to be his chief of staff. As usual, Trump announced his decision on Twitter, saying, quote, "I am pleased to announce that Congressman Mark Meadows will become White House Chief of Staff. I have long known and worked with Mark, and the relationship is a very good one. I want to thank Acting Chief Mick Mulvaney for having served the administration so well. He will become the United States Special Envoy for Northern Ireland. Thank you." Meadows will be Trump's 4th Chief of Staff in 3 years.
Okay, put it back on. So, Representative Mark Meadows of North Carolina will be Donald Trump's 4th Chief of Staff in 3 years. His 4th Chief of Staff in 3 years. Now, News1.com has a really good article about Mark Meadows, because Mark Meadows was a birther. Mark Meadows was one of these white supremacists who said that Barack Obama was not born in this country; he was born in Kenya. So Mark Meadows is a sycophant of Donald Trump. He's from the Freedom Caucus. Freedom Caucus used to be the Tea Party. And now Mark Meadows, who was a birther, is Donald Trump's new chief of staff. He pushes Mick Mulvaney out. Mick Mulvaney is envoy to Ireland. Okay? See, this is the incompetency. So people are seeing this real time as primaries are taking place across the country. People are realizing what happens when you have a president who is incompetent, who's focused more on protecting the stock market than protecting people's lives. They realize what happens when you have somebody like this in office. They realize elections have consequences. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Vern. Vern, line 1. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from. Hello, Vern, you there? Okay, is Vern there? Okay, I don't hear Vern. Okay, Vern, if you muted your phone, take it off mute. Let's try Vern again. Okay, he's not there. Okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, I'm going to give you a couple more things here dealing with the coronavirus. We're going to go to one more clip, then we're going to get into this information dealing with Super Tuesday. Okay, mixed messages from the White House. This is NBCnews.com. It's a really, really good article that came out March 8th. Everybody should read this. Mixed White House messaging on coronavirus sparks internal frustration. Okay, so multiple sources familiar with the discussions acknowledge that Donald Trump is simply not on the same wavelength as the rest of his team, but they said there is not much they can do to change his public tone. Trump has been advised by some close to him to let public health officials, rather than the politicians, take a more forward-facing role, according to a person familiar with the conversation. But a person close to the White House said Trump thinks it helps him politically to keep doing what he has been doing. That has left aides feeling discouraged over their efforts to get out a more comprehensive message about what needs to be done to prepare the public for likely hardships and major changes to their daily lives that could be ahead, said one White House official. Trump consistently downplayed the risk from the virus, which has now killed 19 people as of earlier. When this article came out, it's now at least 21 now in the United States, and Trump questioned the authority of some public health experts. This is the same guy who said he knew more than the generals. Remember that? When the number of confirmed cases in the U.S. stood at 15 in the month of February, Donald Trump told reporters that the number would soon be going down to 0. He also predicted that the virus would be gone by April, although the reported cases have only been accelerating across the globe. Now, when these test kits get to the hospitals and health facilities and they start testing people, because there was a lack of test kits, they start testing people, you're going to see the number of diagnosed cases skyrocket. In public, Donald Trump's other top deputies have mirrored their boss's tone. On Friday, Kellyanne Conway, counselor to Donald Trump, senior advisor, counselor to Donald Trump, told reporters that the virus is being contained. Contained where? What are you talking about? The same day, top economic advisor Larry Kudlow said that the virus, quote, looks relatively contained, end quote, and that, quote, the vast majority of Americans are not at risk for the virus, end quote. Stephen Hahn, commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, briefed reporters Saturday alongside Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar at the White House. Both officials could not say how many people have been tested in the U.S., but they said 48 states now have the ability to use the diagnostic testing. Now, the Atlantic.com had an article that came out in the last few days that talked about close to 1,900 people have been tested across the country. That's all. Asked why Donald Trump and Vice President Mike Pence have been on different pages in public remarks when it comes to the availability of public testing, Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar said Donald Trump was using shorthand when he suggested that anyone who wants a test can get one. You just heard the clip I played. Okay? Anyone who wants a test can get a test. Anyone? No. It's based upon need, not want. Is he saying you get a test and you get a test and you get a test? Is that what he's talking about? Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar said what he meant to say is we're not in the way of that. What he meant to say is we're not in the way of that. And he knows the numbers. We brief him daily on these numbers. That kind of sounds like what had happened was. that kind of sounds like what had happened was, right? Now, Trump essentially acknowledged that there was a political consideration to his decision-making process on the virus Friday, March 6th, when he said he did not want passengers being held on a cruise ship off California to be brought back into the U.S. because he believed the move would make the number of cases appear to spike. He's more concerned at keeping the number of cases that are being reported low as opposed to being concerned about people's well-being. Donald Trump said, I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship that wasn't our fault. And it wasn't the fault of the people on the ship either, okay? It wasn't their fault either. And they're mostly Americans, so I can live either way with it. I'd rather have them stay on personally, end quote. But with testing expected to increase, the White House says it will have millions of tests available this week compared to numbers in the low thousands that have been conducted so far. And with the virus reported in more than half of the states so far, the situation is likely to change dramatically. Trump's former Food and Drug Administration Commissioner, Scott Gottlieb, Gottlieb, warned Saturday. Gottlieb tweeted, "We may be entering a period of accelerating cases. The country could look very different over the next 2 weeks. We'll get through this, but need to take steps now to limit the scope and impact of virus. There are things we can do now to help ourselves," end quote. A White House official said that that is the type of messaging officials believe the administration needs to be getting out. I agree. The first thing you need to do is shut Trump up. Don't have him doing no interviews. Don't have him tweeting about this. Just tell him be quiet. Okay? Because if you look at the stock market, in the past 2 weeks, the stock market has lost basically 11% of its value. Okay? And you have international markets affected by this. You have the U.S. market, etc. All right, I want to go to this next clip, then we'll go to the phone line. So stand by. We got Vern back, and then we have Aiden. Stand by. I want to go to this next clip. This is from MSNBC. This is clip number 2 from, which one is this? Is this AM Joy? Which one is this? This is AM Joy? Yeah, let's go to AM Joy. Coronavirus cases in U.S. climb as slow government response slam. This is from Sunday, March 8th from Joanne Reed, AM Joy, MSNBC. Let's go to this clip.
Community transmission means what? Community transmission means that the virus
circulated among Americans who did not travel abroad and who did not have any contact with someone who travels abroad. So it means that people are walking into the hospital or to a doctor's office, obviously sick.
Community transmission means what?
Community transmission means that the virus has circulated among Americans who did not travel abroad and who did not have any contact with someone who travels abroad. So it means that people are walking into the hospital or to a doctor's office, obviously sick with COVID-19, with no known contact with anyone else who's had it. So that means that it's like circulating out there and we don't know how many people have it. So we had our first case 2 Wednesdays ago. Let's say it's 9 days, right? So within 7 days of South Korea having identified their first case of community transmission, they had tested about more than 10,000. They were testing 10,000 people a day, and they had tested overall more than 66,000 people. At this point, based on my partner Alexis and my reporting, we think the U.S. at the end of the day, Friday, had tested 2,800 people. So we have tested fewer people overall since we discovered community transmission in the United States than South Korea was testing per day within a week of discovering community transmission. So that's how far behind the U.S. is lagging on this front.
Yeah, and I mean the issue is that in New York you now have a state of emergency. You did have a person who was an Uber or shared ride driver. Who's tested positive. You have cases that are starting to frighten people about maybe getting into a car or going to the theater. So people are being worried. But if you don't know, if you're not testing enough people, is the risk there that you just don't know how many people have it, period, so that you could have unknown risk, people still going to work, people still going to the mall, that kind of thing? Is that what the risk is?
Yeah, exactly. It's that until we know how large an outbreak is, it's very, political leaders don't have the decisions they need to kind of impose restrictions on travel or restrictions on public places, or to advise, for instance, adults from leaving the house if they have certain conditions. For instance, right now, we think the largest outbreak is in Seattle. And we think this for two reasons. The first is that there are the most positive cases kind of around Seattle and in Washington State. And the second is that there's this genetic study.
Okay, we're going to pause right there. We have to take a break. We'll finish this on the other side of the break. Then we'll go to the phone lines. We'll go to Bird and Aiden, and then we'll get into Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, how their policies match up for African Americans. 9:10 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep, the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, guys, stand by. How's everybody doing? Okay, so we're going to finish up dealing with coronavirus. Then we're going to get into Super Tuesday, and we'll look at the policies of Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and see how they match up for African Americans. TheRoot.com had a very, very good analysis dealing with this. They consulted with policy experts. They consulted with political science experts, etc., legal experts, to come up with a ranking system, come up with a system, one, to evaluate the policies of the Democratic candidates. And they ranked them, okay, from who had the best policies down to who had the worst policies. Okay, so we're going to get into this. If you go watch the broadcast that I did March 4th, 2020, I got deep into this, but we're going to deal with that tonight. We're going to focus on Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, since they're basically two in a race. We ain't going to deal time with Tulsi Gabbard. That ain't going to happen right there. Somebody need to tell a girl it's over. But, and then we'll talk a little bit about Mike Bloomberg as well, okay? Because Mike Bloomberg had the Greenwood Initiative. Mike Bloomberg, a lot of people were saying, oh, we should vote for Mike Bloomberg because he's going to do this, this, and that. Well, Mike Bloomberg dropped out of the race. He endorsed Joe Biden. So what now?
30 seconds.
Okay. All right. So what now? Okay. So how's everybody doing here on YouTube? We've got D.B. Cooper. We got Miss Britton, Rep Israel, Journal J News. Just a few of the people watching us on YouTube. On YouTube is Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. On YouTube, we got Charlemagne.
And we're back.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 8th, 2020. Time goes by quickly. Okay, so you got to watch my broadcast throughout the week because I go deep into this. The one I did on Wednesday, March 4th, the day after Super Tuesday, that was 2.5 hours. So I had time to get deep into this stuff, right, and provide you with all the evidence and sources and articles, things like this. Okay, we're going to go back to this clip here, and if you just back it up maybe 20 or 30 seconds, Farrah. We're going to go back to this clip here to finish this up a little bit. This is from AM Joanne Reed from March 8th. Coronavirus cases in U.S. climb as slow government response slammed. She was speaking with Robinson Meyer, staff writer at The Atlantic, theatlantic.com. They're the ones that have the article that talked about how this past week only about 1,800 people had been tested for the coronavirus. Let's go back to this clip.
There's this genetic study which has found that based on mutations in the virus that has been identified in Seattle, that it has been circulating there for some time. Like, that strain is not related to any strains we see anywhere else in the world. But there's also been nearly the most tests in Washington. I think it's the second, they've tested the second most there of any state.
Yep.
And there's no other public version of that genetic mutation test. So we think that the biggest outbreak is in Seattle. But that's based on two pieces of information that we really don't have for many other states.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're in.
Okay, you can put me back on. Okay, so that was from AM Joy. Check that out. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Vern. We got Vern back, line 1. Hey, Vern, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from. Vern, Vern, you're on the air. Welcome to the African History Network show. Huh?
My name is Ron.
Ron. Okay, sorry, Ron. I said Vern here on the screen. Sorry about that. Thanks for holding. Thanks for calling back. Tell us where you're calling from.
Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan. Okay, go ahead with your question or comment, Ron.
How long have you been on the air?
Tonight or in general?
In general.
10 years. 4 years on this station.
Okay.
4 years in this time slot on this station. 10 years in general.
Can I go back and somewhere and look at some of the tapes on the talk that you was talking about, as presidents that you do like, and see are you consistent enough, or like you are on Donald Trump? Is it possible I can do that?
You can go back and listen to my broadcast going back 10 years. Go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on listen to podcasts. I have almost 1,000 podcasts going back to 2010. You can go on YouTube. I'm broadcasting on YouTube right now. I got 55,000 followers on my YouTube channel. I have broadcasts going back years. You can watch stuff there. You can go to my Facebook fan page, the African History Network, where I have 1,010,000 followers. You can watch broadcasts I have going back years there. So you could Google my name. You can listen to podcasts when I used to guest host the Roland Martin nationally syndicated radio show. You can listen to podcasts when I used to do my nationally syndicated radio show, the Michael Imhotep show. You can listen to when I used to guest host the Warren Ballantyne nationally syndicated radio show. So I have a body of work. All you have to do is Google my name.
Okay, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm black.
Okay.
I'm curious on are you consistent like you are on him?
I'm very consistent.
Trump is not perfect.
I'm very consistent.
Is Biden perfect?
I'm very consistent. None of them are perfect. None of them are perfect. I never said any of them are perfect. I'm very. What do you mean? What's my point of doing this? What's my point of doing what? I'm providing facts and evidence and sources. Whoa. Slow down, Ron. We ain't gonna overtalk each other. You gotta call somebody else's show for that. I'm providing you evidence. I'm providing you the name of the articles that you can go read yourself. I'm providing you the name of the clips you can go watch yourself. I'm providing you updated information on the coronavirus. Now, if you're a Trump supporter, that's your problem. I don't have nothing to do with that. I'm dealing with facts and evidence here. Okay. Now I asked every question that you asked. You asked me for how long I've been on the air. I told you I can provide. I have a body of work. You can go research that. Call me back when you do. Thanks for calling, Ron. Keep listening. You're gonna learn something on this show. I can't talk about anybody else's show. I provided you with the articles. Now the problem is he ain't read none of these. He sits up and watches Fox News all day. Okay. I don't have a problem with Trump supporters call here. You can call here. Trump supporters call all the time. Now, and they know I'm going to deal with them, too, when they call here, if they come at me the wrong way. Aiden. Hey, Aiden, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding, Aiden. Tell us where you're calling from.
Calling from Detroit.
Detroit. Okay, go ahead, Aiden. Thanks for holding.
Okay, I was listening to the news yesterday. It was...
So you listened to the news yesterday?
Yeah, it
okay.
Was a Chinese news broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And they stated that it was discovered that there were 2 strands of the COVID-19.
Yeah, I've heard that.
One they classified as L, and one they classified as S, which L is the strongest.
Mm-hmm. So it is mute from my understanding, and I got to grab this other call here, but from my understanding, the second strain is a mutated strain. I'm trying to get some more information on that. Is information I just heard, I think maybe yesterday, but the second strain is a mutated strain. But go ahead.
This is what I heard yesterday.
Yeah.
And I would just like to say real quick that we know good and well this is laboratory made.
Well, I don't know it's laboratory made. I don't know that. That's you saying that. I don't know this laboratory made. But go ahead, finish your statement.
If we have a bacteria mutating and that fast, then that means that humans would be mutating. We will be having more, what they call them, adapters.
No, it goes back, it's believed goes back to bats in Wuhan, China, that somehow infected humans, and it mutated from animals going to humans. Okay? All right, thanks for calling, Nathan. I got to get to John. Thanks for calling. Hey, John, line 3. John, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
I'm calling from the east side of Detroit. Okay, thank you. 1,000% telling that John, my Fox guy, you got to read more. And so
oh, brother, I've been doing radio 10 years. People like that don't even bother me, man.
Yeah,
trust me, man. I've been doing radio 10 years. People like that don't even bother me. I like it when they call in. I know how to deal with them. Go ahead. Oh, brother, come on, man.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to say, Spaniard, that guy could compete to the feet, or the vice president. He just didn't get out there in West Virginia like he's supposed to. He didn't campaign. I mean, that guy...
Who are you talking about?
The candidate, independent candidate.
You talking about Bernie Sanders?
That's right.
Okay.
That's you call his name. That's exactly right.
Okay, so you say he didn't campaign where?
In West Virginia, you see what happened? That means they clean Bernie Sanders' clock down there. So
okay.
They campaign enough down there and so forth.
Well, South Carolina, I know South Carolina. Yeah, okay. And then you're talking about for Super Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
right.
okay.
And he should have won Texas. They say he should have won Texas. And he did win California, but they said that he just didn't do enough work down there. I don't know who he got campaigning for him down there. He said he's more African Americans walking on the streets down there in Texas to get more votes and so forth.
Yeah, he lost Texas. That was surprising when Bernie Sanders lost Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
But once again, see, this is why I said don't listen to the political pundits. People have to go vote. The people will speak, and the people will decide who they want. Not the political pundits on MSNBC and CNN and Fox News, because 99% of them got the results wrong for Super Tuesday.
That's right. That's exactly right. Thank you for saying that. Knowledge is power. Thank
you
very much.
Okay, John, I got to run.
Have a good week.
Okay, keep talking. Okay, so let's do a quick, brief recap of Super Tuesday, all right? So we saw this past Wednesday, former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg dropped out of the race, and he immediately endorsed Joe Biden. He said from the beginning that he was going to support whoever got the nomination. He said his number one goal was to beat Donald Trump. Joe Biden had a surprisingly strong showing on Super Tuesday, March 3rd, which so far had wiped out the delegate lead of Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, California has not been totally decided. It's believed that Bernie Sanders will win California, but because of the proportionality when it comes to the delegates, Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden will both get delegates, but Bernie Sanders will most likely get more, but we don't know exactly how that's going to shape up with the delegate race, okay? Bernie Sanders could end up getting more total delegates than Joe Biden. We're not sure right now because California has not been totally decided. After failing to claim any victories, including her home state of Massachusetts, Senator Elizabeth Warren dropped out of the race this past week. We know that Joe Biden won Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Texas, and Maine. Okay? Joe Biden won 10 states. Bernie Sanders won 4 states, the state of Vermont, where he's from, Colorado, Utah, and let me see. He won those 3 states, and California is believed Bernie Sanders is going to win California. All right, so Tuesday, Super Tuesday awarded 1,357 delegates. We know you need 1,991 to get the nomination. Okay, African American voters turned out. We saw Hispanic voters turned out as well. Let's see, Black America Web has an article dealing with African American voters. Black voters come through for Joe Biden on Super Tuesday. This was picked up from the Associated Press. You can read that at blackamericaweb.com. And then we see that young voters did not, in general, turn out for Joe Biden in the numbers that he predicted, the numbers that he needed, etc. Okay, so I've said this before. Sitting at home on Twitter, tweeting, TikToking, Facebooking, putting out YouTube videos, attacking people, calling people names, all that stuff, that's not voting. Going to rallies is not voting. You have to, in the primaries, you have to actually go and vote for who you want. If you want Bernie Sanders, go vote for Bernie Sanders. I don't have a problem with you if you want to vote for Bernie Sanders. If you like Bernie Sanders, go vote for Bernie Sanders. You like Joe Biden, go vote for Joe Biden. I don't have a problem with that. Okay? But don't attack people who went and go voted and your ass didn't go vote. Or your group didn't go vote. Okay? That's not the people's fault who went and voted. Go talk to the people who didn't go vote. All right. So I'm going to post on the threads of our broadcast here on Facebook and YouTube. We'll post the names of some of these articles here because I don't have time to get through a lot of them. But watch the broadcast that I did from March 4th, okay? Because I really went deep into this. And we saw the voter suppression that took place also, like in Texas, okay? That ties into Shelby County versus Holder, U.S. Supreme Court case from 2013, which struck down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. Now, there were a couple good articles dealing with what took place in Texas. MSN.com had a good one, as well as theweek.com, W-E-E-K, theweek.com. We saw that in Texas, there have been 750 polling places that have been shut down. 750 polling places that have been shut down since 2012. And this is after the U.S. Supreme Court case of Shelby County versus Holder that gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. Now, Washington Post has a really good recap on this. A wild Super Tuesday boosts Biden and brings new challenges for Sanders. A wild Super Tuesday boosts Biden and brings new challenges for Bernie Sanders, okay? And those other articles I can't find right now. So, MSN.com. Black and Latino voters were hit hardest by long lines in the Texas Democratic primary. Black and Latino voters were hit hardest by long lines in the Texas Democratic primary. That's from MSN.com. Okay, check that out. Go watch the broadcast I did March 4th, and I go deep into that. All right, so I want to jump into this discussion here. The Root.com, Michael Harriot for the Root.com, had a very, very good article from, well, they don't put the dates on this thing. I don't know why, but whatever. This is from February 2020 sometime. February 28th, 2020. They have the date on here now. Maybe they heard me. Every Democratic candidate's black agenda ranked. Every Democratic candidate's black agenda ranked. Now, I see a whole lot of discussions on Facebook. We have 1 million followers on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. I've got close to 5,000 on my personal page, Michael Imhotep. I see a whole lot of discussions from my Facebook friends and people commenting on my posts and things like this. 99% of the time, nobody is citing this study from the Root.com. They're dealing with feelings and emotions, what have you, whatever, okay? So with this one here, what they did was they looked at the policies of the candidates. Now, this was before a lot of these people dropped out. But they asked policy experts, legal scholars, and political pundits, all of whom were African American, to help them, the Root.com, devise a policy matrix, Then they graded each plan from the candidates on a scale of 1 to 10 using the following criteria: economics, criminal justice, education, politics, comprehensiveness, as in how detailed is the plan, does it contain specific policy proposals. Number 6 is blind spots. Are there important areas that are not addressed. Number 7, feasibility. Feasibility. Now, feasibility is very important because a lot of this stuff you got to get passed through Congress, especially the U.S. Senate. You probably need 60 votes in the Senate, which means even if Democrats take back control of the U.S. Senate, maybe it's a 52, 53 seat majority in the Senate for Democrats. You still gonna need 7 or 8 Republicans to vote for these policies, and that's just the bottom line. And that's the difference between, because I hear a whole lot of people talking, right? That's the difference between a lot of things millennials and younger people say. Generation Z, below millennials, younger than millennials. A lot of them don't focus on Congress. Congress is a co-equal branch of government. Read Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Go to loc.gov and read the U.S. Constitution. Go to archives.gov. Read the U.S. Constitution. There's a reason why Article 1 comes before Article 2. Article 2 deals with the powers of Congress. Most of these things that the candidates want to do, they have to go through Congress for this before it gets to their desk to be signed in the law. And while we're on it, it's the same thing with reparations. This is why I understand some of the conversations about reparations. Moscow Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, Republican from Kentucky, already said reparations is dead on arrival in the U.S. Senate. No bill can come to the Senate floor for a debate or for a vote without his approval. He already said it's dead on arrival. So I'm like, why y'all focusing so much on the presidential candidates as opposed to focus on getting Mitch McConnell out of office and Democrats taking control of the Senate? Because you can't get these bills passed. It has to go through Congress first before a president signs it into law. There's a reason why Article 1 is before Article 2. So they deal with feasibility. What are the chances of the policies being enacted by legislation, executive action, or internal policy? Does the candidate have the political skill to make their plan come true? Number 8, history. What is the candidate's history of dealing with black people? Has the candidate displayed a willingness to address issues of race and inequality? Number 9, intentionality. Do we believe them, or do they need more people? Do we believe them, or do they need more people? Can we objectively believe the candidate will work for Black America? Is he or she pandering, or do they really have the will to make this a priority? Number 10, impact. If implemented, what impact would these policies have? How would the plan affect the problems it attempts to address? How would the plan affect the problems it attempts to address? Now, this is the first time I've seen an analysis like this. This is the first time I've seen an analysis, especially from a publication that ain't African American owned, roots owned by Hispanics. But still, this is good. I encourage everybody to read this. Okay? If the candidate, so this is what they did. If the candidate's campaign literature does not include a specific quote unquote black plan or black agenda, they examined their individual policy proposals to see what effect their plan would have on Black America or African Americans. Okay? Because as I've said before, and I've said this in my previous broadcast, the policies that candidates will implement, the policies presidents will implement, and the bills that pass through Congress are going to benefit African Americans positively or negatively, regardless of whether the policies say Black or African American. They're going to have an impact on you. Okay? So they start with Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard got a 0. Now, all these people that dropped out of the race, I ain't going to spend time on them, okay, going through their policies. Number 7, Amy Klobuchar got 22. We'll talk some about Senator Elizabeth Warren if we have time, because she got the highest score. She had the most detailed agenda for African Americans. Okay, Senator Elizabeth Warren. Amy Klobuchar got a 22. This is 22 out of 100, by the way, just so people understand. Tulsi Gabbard got 0 out of 100. Okay. Michael Bloomberg got a 43 out of 100. He had his Greenwood Initiative. So economics, Michael Bloomberg's plan gives broad strokes on how he plans to fix the wage gap. He wants to create new homeowners, end unfair lending practices, and task credit agencies with restructuring credit reporting. He also wants to invest in creating $100,000 more. He also wants to invest in creating 100,000 more black employers, black entrepreneurs. He supports a commission to look into reparations, okay, which would be HR 40 in general. Okay, that's in the House of Representatives, H.R. 40. Go to congress.gov and research H.R. 40, January 2019. Sponsored by Sheila Jackson Lee out of Texas. Okay, so they go through criminal justice, education, all that stuff. Michael Bloomberg, he got a 43 out of 100. All right, next is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders got a 50 out of 100. Now, it says Bernie Sanders' plan for racial justice is only a small part of his agenda for Black America. So let me say this from the beginning. You've heard me talk about Black agendas in the past. A Black agenda, one, is what we present to the candidates. That's not what we wait on the candidates to give us, number one. It comes from a sense of self-determination, not passivity, waiting on somebody to give us something. A Black agenda is something that we push to the candidates, and it gives us a measuring stick to measure the candidates by. It gives us a barometer to measure the candidates by. And being able to put together a Black agenda comes from your understanding of policies, how policies impact African Americans, the African American community, and understanding history, the policies that were put in place and historical events that took place to put us in the predicament that we're in right now. So you have to understand history and understand politics to put together a coherent, a reasonable, a logical Black agenda or African American agenda. Okay, and there have been those in the past. We know in August 2013, 60 civil rights organizations presented a 33-page, I think it was about 33 pages, 33-page Black agenda to the Obama administration. We know that you have different Black Lives Matter organizations that collectively have sponsored Black agendas, etc. Okay, and recently, one of the founders of Black Lives Matter, Roland Martin, interviewed her because they have a Black agenda also. Bernie Sanders. Okay, so economics. Bernie Sanders' plan for economic justice is very vague. It lists the most commonly known problem, the wealth gap, redlining, housing discrimination, and vows to fix them. But it does not say how he would do it. Now, this ain't me. This is the analysis. It does not say how he would do it. He seems to rely on his plan for income inequality to answer all questions. He does not, now they say he does not support reparations. Now, when he was here, let me say this specifically. When Bernie Sanders was here in Detroit in, was it June or July, at the NAACP National Convention at Cobo Hall, which is now TCF Craft, right? Whatever it is. Bernie Sanders, I was there in the audience for the Democratic Presidential Town Hall, okay? April Ryan interviewed all the candidates. Bernie Sanders said he supports H.R. 40, okay, which is sponsored by Sheila Jackson Lee, okay? He said, specifically, he said in the past, he does not support reparations solely in the form of a check, all right? Because he said that doesn't bring about the structural changes that need to happen. Well, you've heard me say this before. I don't support reparations 100% being in the form of a check. If we all got $1 million a day, you know damn well Black people, if we all got $1 million a day, you know white people will have it all back this time next week. You know that, okay? Don't act brand new. We can't, year after year, talk about how we spend 97% of our dollars with people that don't look like us, and then all of a sudden we get $500,000, $700,000, $1 million. We think that is going to change. Now, cash payments can be part of an overall package, like the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. Go research that. I've talked about that previously. Dr. Claude Anderson has information on the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866, which is probably our best chance to get any type of concrete reparations, because those are laws still on the books right now, and some of our ancestors got compensation from the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians. This is how a lot of the early landowners, African-American landowners, Black landowners in Tulsa, Oklahoma, got their land in the first place. Like Sarah Rector, who became known as the richest Afro-American girl in the early 1900s. She got land. She's from enslaved Creek Black ancestry, because the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians all own African slaves. When they go into Oklahoma, they got pushed off their land in the southeastern United States because of the Indian Removal Act of 1830, signed by President Andrew Jackson. When they go into Oklahoma, they take their African slaves with them. And those slaves that they had, they're going to be compensated after the Civil War ends. That's the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. That's probably our best chance, since those laws are still in the books now, and we were illegally pushed out of those treaties in 1941. That's probably our best chance to get any real concrete type of compensation, because there's a history of us doing it. So for economics, Bernie Sanders got a 7. Criminal justice. Bernie Sanders' criminal justice displays the same performative rhetoric. He details his details are not revelatory, and he offers no solutions except to say that he will solve the problem. So for criminal justice, he got a 5 out of 10. Economics, 7 out of 10. Okay, let me know how much time we have left in the show. Fair. Okay, education. Bernie Sanders promises to make college debt free for everyone who attends a 4-year college. He also plans to cancel student debt and give $1.3 billion to HBCUs and minority-serving institutions. Student loan debt is big, okay? And that impacts different generations. It ain't just young people. Because when you go to college, your whole family goes to college. When you go to college, your whole family incurs debt and expenses, etc. Okay, so he also plans to cancel student debt and give $1.3 billion to HBCUs and minority-serving institutions. Aside from child care, his platform has very little, if any, information on reducing disparities in K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade. Okay, education. So for education, he gets a 4. Now, this is not an attack on Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. This is analysis of their policies and how they will impact African Americans. For politics, Bernie Sanders wants to get money out of politics, stop gerrymandering, and reform voting, which will undoubtedly benefit African American voters, but his policies are race blind. For politics, he gets a 4. For comprehensiveness, he gets a 5. Bernie Sanders' plan for Black America reads like a first-year sociology student's midterm project. Okay, so this is, I think Michael Harry is saying this, what have you. But for comprehensiveness, he gets a 5. Now, it's important to note, as time goes on, some candidates do flesh out their policies and add more details in general. That is true. As the race goes on, as you get deeper into it, some candidates do flesh out their policies as they meet with more groups, etc. That is true. Blind spots. Bernie Sanders does not have any egregious blind spot in his platform because it consists mostly of listing the problems and saying, I got this, or he'll solve it, what have you. For blind spots, he gets a 5. For feasibility, he gets a 4. As with other platforms, without any specifics, it is hard to say if Bernie Sanders could pass these detail-free policies. They have to pass through both chambers of Congress, the House of Representatives, and the U.S. Senate. For a lot of these, you would need 60 votes in the U.S. Senate, which means you would need some Republicans to vote for them. Okay, it's the same thing for Joe Biden. This is not an attack on any one of them. This is understanding what a lot of people don't want to talk about, getting this stuff passed through Congress so a president can sign the bill into law. Right now, in 2019, Democrats in the House of Representatives passed 433 bills. 80% of them are stuck in the Senate being blocked by Moscow, Mitch McConnell, and Republicans. History. Bernie Sanders voted for the 94 crime bill, but he's not happy about it. He said that many times. He has made some problematic statements about African Americans, but he also has a history of being on the right side of most civil rights issues. He marched with Dr. King, as he says, and he's supported by Jesse Jackson. We saw Jesse Jackson came out and endorsed Bernie Sanders. But he also wanted to primary President Barack Obama. 2012, Bernie Sanders contemplated running against President Barack Obama, primarying him. And then the day after Super Tuesday, on Wednesday, Bernie Sanders comes out with a campaign ad featuring Barack Obama praising Bernie Sanders. And people are looking at it, well, wait a second, you won the primary President Barack Obama in 2012. So for history, he gets a 6. For intentionality, he gets a 3. For impact, he gets a 7. His total score is 50. Okay, Tom Starr got a 62. Pete Buttigieg got a 66. Pete Buttigieg had the Frederick Douglass plan, but Buttigieg dropped out. Now, Joe Biden. Joe Biden gets a total score of 70. Bernie Sanders got a 50. Joe Biden gets a total score of 70. That's not me. That's the analysis. Joe Biden does not have a separate plan that spells out his vision for Black America, but here's what we found by examining his platform. Because I've looked at, a month ago, I looked at all the candidates' platforms. Joe Biden did not have a specific Black agenda, but his policies will impact African Americans, a lot of them positively. That's just the facts. You can go read them. Go to BernieSanders.com, read his policies. Go to JoeBiden.com, read his. All the candidates read their policies. Economics. Biden specifically mentions redlining, housing discrimination, fair lending practices. He offers boilerplate solutions on ways to tackle the wage and income gap, but he does single out Black maternal health and health disparities. He does not support reparations. Now, I heard a campaign surrogate for the article from Political when the whole thing broke out with the comment about the segregationists, and these were Democratic senators who were segregationists. A surrogate for him said that he supports H.R. 40, but in debates, when asked about it, he sidesteps the issue about reparations. Now, once again, it's important to note, reparations, that stuff got to pass through Congress, especially the Senate, before it goes to the president's desk to be signed into law. Criminal justice, again, Joe Biden tackles most of the criminal justice issues that are prevalent in America. One of the most unique areas that he confronts is the criminalization of girls, foster children, and abused children. He also puts effort into violence against women and reintegrating the formerly incarcerated. For criminal justice, he gets a 7. For economics, he gets a 7. For education, Joe Biden gets a 6. Biden tackles K-12 funding, HBCU funding, and social inequality. He has one of the few campaigns that tie redlining and zip codes to education inequality. He also focuses on putting black teachers into schools. His idea to offer a path from community colleges to HBCUs is innovative. For education, he gets a 6. For politics, he gets a 5. The Biden campaign doesn't really address voting rights except to say that he plans to use the Department of Justice against violators. He also wants to incentivize states to restore voting rights to felons. Okay, let me know how much time we have. For comprehensiveness, he gets a 9. For blind spots, he gets a 7. For feasibility, Joe Biden gets a 10. Joe Biden has more legislative and executive experience than almost any politician in history, according to this analysis, and he's a 2-term vice president, so you're going to learn a few things. He knows how to compromise and get laws passed. When he touts his accomplishments, we know he's taking credit for a lot of other people's work, but we also know that Joe Biden worked with President Barack Obama, etc., as his vice president. Feasibility, he gets a 10. History, he gets a 5. Okay, history, he gets a 5. Intentionality, he gets an 8. Impact, Biden's policies are progressive but not groundbreaking. He wants to fix the inequalities through conventional means and left-center legislation. However, if enacted, they would make a significant impact. For impact, he gets a 6. So he gets a 70. Bernie Sanders gets a 50. Senator Elizabeth Warren got a 79. Elizabeth Warren's plan was called A Working Agenda for Black America. So read this. We'll post a link here on the thread of our broadcast. This is from theroot.com, February 28, 2020. Every Democratic candidate's Black agenda ranked. Okay, so follow us on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and on YouTube. Donate $ the AHN Show through Cash App or PayPal.me/the AHN Show through PayPal. We got to get out of here. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo. Remember, right now is correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.